Good afternoon and good morning, wherever you are in the art world. Thank you so much for joining us in another inspiring art talk. So, this afternoon, we are having artist James Gilbert and gallerist Erin Cluley. How are you? Welcome you all.
Thank you.
Good,
Thanks for having
thank
us.
you.
So from Dallas, Texas, so which is a part that I've never been. Wonderful. So and it's very early in the morning. So I really thank you for for being with us today. So can we are here and we can see this impressive background with your solo exhibition. I don't know, you don't know, and they don't know. Did you meet and how? What was the story behind this exhibition?
So, as you said, my gallery is in Dallas. We're here in Dallas. The gallery has been around for about 8 years. Prior to that, it was a little over 12 years ago, I was the director of exhibitions at Dallas Contemporary, which is a Kunsthal style museum, non-collecting here in Dallas. And the institution had moved into a new building, and James was put on the inaugural exhibition there. So he and I worked on that exhibition together. It was this massive installation in about 10,000 square feet.
About 10,000 square feet.
So it was a immersive, his practice has kind of remained where it's varied in sculpture, works on paper. In that exhibition, there were sound elements. It was really immersive for all of the visitors. So I was there. I was new to this institution, to Dallas Contemporary, working with James. We've remained friends since. I've continued following his work. And within the last year, we brought a couple of pieces in for a group show and then decided to mount a solo exhibition. So I'm really happy to have the exhibition here. And I know you all are going to chat a lot about what's here in the gallery.
Yeah.
Yes, but also your space, you are, can you tell us a bit before we have our chat with James? For instance, the gallery is accepting all emergent artists. You have a beautiful concept behind your space.
So yeah, so we show artists that are kind of in different points in their career. We do have a lot of Texas-based, regional-based artists, but we also have artists on both coasts. So artists like James that we're working with, but we have some artists on the East Coast as well. And then in about a year and a half ago, we opened Cluley Projects, which is a project space. It's just a few minutes away from this gallery here, but focusing specifically only on Texas-based artists who have not had gallery representation before in most cases. We're also looking at underrepresented communities, women, BIPOC, LGBTQ, not solely that, but kind of looking to give artists from those communities opportunities. So between this space, between Erin Cluley Gallery and Cluley Projects, we're kind of covering a lot of artists that are in different points in their career, like James, who is had some really incredible things happen in the last few years before that as well, but with the biennial in
Minneapolis. I did a land art biennial this summer, a museum show coming up after this.
Yeah.
So it's a nice kind of momentum, and this is a nice kind of solo show in the middle of it.
Wonderful. Thank you. What, James? So now the title that I love. What inspired you?
The title of the show is for this gallery is "I Don't Know, You Don't Know, and They Don't Know." And I've been thinking a lot of my projects are thematic based, and the materials are specific to it. But this title, it's about what the last few years have been in terms of the pandemic, our history, what's happening politically, what's happening environmentally. and everybody seems to have an opinion on it. And I have an opinion, you have an opinion, everybody has an opinion, but the reality is, and the experts have an opinion, but reality is, and I heard this quote, some version of it, where like, I don't really know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's happening. We can all just speculate. So that's part of our lives in terms of our own discovery. What is next for us? What's next for the subsequent generations? We don't know, but we have to make do the best we can in this moment and plan for those moments we don't know. So I think it's kind of an optimistic viewpoint with dealing with the unknown.
Yes, and I told you, for me it was a bit of some reminiscences from a Socratic saying, lyrics from Paul McCartney. I don't know, but it was quite. It is quite. I love it. It's so catchy, and again, it's all your, you tackle many with a bit of a twist, contemporary political, social, and cultural issues that are, as you just mentioned, are very, very important to all of us. And sometimes, we speculate, but we don't know really how to answer. So, but tell me about, now the exhibition. This exhibition is how many works, and also, there are different medias that I can see.
There are different works. There are, in this main wall behind us, there are 138 drawings. They're all the same size. They're 14 by 11 inches, which is, I think, is about 40 by 50 centimeters, I think roughly around there. There are 7 main sculptures. And then we do a tour. There's a couple on an opposite wall right here. There's a couple other larger drawings. So it's a lot of work, but when Erin and I were putting the show together, it's the right balance. And we had some other things that we brought in for the show that we thought, we don't need it. It says everything we want it to say, and it's got the perfect balance and activation of the space. So when we do a tour, you'll see we're proud of the way it looks.
No, it is this harmonic, as you said, balance. We can feel it. But why, first of all, with those drawings, they're beautiful. They, not only beautiful to see, because of course there is there are these beautiful colors that make you, hope for hope. There are many of positive vibes. But what would what was the story behind? Why? Who was that you were drawing? First of all, there were different people, or
the drawings to me, and a lot of the show is part of the title is I don't know, you don't know, they don't know. It started from the viewpoint of, I realized most of us don't know our ancestors. We don't know further back, and it's kind of been studied. We don't know more than 3 generations. We don't know more than our grandparents. And so if we don't know our own personal history, how could we actually know the larger collective history? And that's why some of these strange things in politics and environment keep on repeating themselves, and we're not resolving that. So that's how I got to the drawings. The drawings are these portraits. In a way, they're generational. Mm-hmm. And if we can get like close-ups on it, I'll show you. It's layers and layers and layers of faces. And there's almost like multiple generations in these. You'll see multiple eyes, noses, faces, tilted, slanted, upside down. And so I'm trying to show like a history of each family in each face without knowing who they are. And what I do is I paint a background, and then they're mixed media. So I'm using watercolor, I'm using gouache, I'm using ink, I'm using colored pencil. So I'm using, because they all have different kind of qualities. I'll paint the background, and then I'll do all the layers on top of it, but I allow for the background to be seen through these faces. So just like our environment and our background is part of our history, you can see that background and history through the face. Then you'll see lots and lots of layers of family members and generations. And when we walk around, I'll try to give you a close-up on some of them.
And in fact, what you were asking in this, looking at your beautiful works, most of it was, how can we reconcile a dangerously forgetful history? Is it, no, I love it. As I said, the more I I look at your works, and the more, you know, you understand it a little bit more, and every time there is a different story behind every piece. And you know, I think, as I said, we met through a dear friend, and I was very, and thanks to her, we are here.
Quick view, when you walk in, you're going to see a large wall of drawings, and then the couple of sculptures right there. And what I'll say, the drawings are mixed media, which we just talked about, but these sculptures, they're all made out of wood. They're wood carvings. And just like on the drawings, I have lots of layers, and it's important for me to see the handiwork and to see, you know, the physical effort and the labor in each one. So these wood carvings, I use hand tools because I want to see each work. Erin's going to hold this for me. This is great. So it's hard to see in these pictures, but maybe we'll attach something. These are hand marks or chisel marks. I want to see the labor. We live in a world where things are so produced and precise and you're manufactured cleanly. I want to see the mistakes. I want to see the flaws in the wood. I want to see the hand marks, because I feel we all have flaws. We all have things that we can work on. And I think it's important to see that in the work. So this is obviously a relationship. It's not for me to describe the works, it's for everybody else to look at it. But obviously this is using somewhat figurative elements, but we all have our own abstractions in terms of our personalities and who we are and who we're presenting to people. That's what this is about. And that's why these sculptures are heavily layered, just like the drawings are. And then this one quickly behind it, same thing. There's a little bit of information that we're hiding about our personalities, but you won't be able to see it, but you can probably see from the shadows, there's a few lumps here. I've hit in it. Right here is a facial feature. This is a nose right here, and a very, very small ear is here, and a very, very small ear is on this side. So if you were in this space, you could actually see some of those details. I know it's tough for this one. So we'll go around.
Yes, and you know, this most of the art talks, you know, is the imperfection makes it perfect. You know, this is beautiful. So this is us, made of imperfection, because it's so beautiful, and this reflects our souls.
Exactly. We all have our quirks. We all have this strangeness. We all have our unique personalities. And I think that has to be seen in the work. And that's why almost all the work I make, you can go to my website and see the history of my work. It all has to do with raw materials. I address flaws. I allow flaws to happen. This show is about drawing and wood carving. I've used sewing and textiles and plastic, and I'll leave loose threads. It's important to know that we're not perfect. So I'll show you, since we're here.
Yes.
This is obviously a slighter look at some of these, and you can see how heavily layered how some of these get. And there's lots and lots of marks. There's thousands and thousands of marks in each one of these, but it's about who we are. And let's see, maybe this one is, I'm trying to look in the screen. You can see, you know, this background is part of our unique history, and every single one has a unique background. Intentionally, everyone has a unique color palette, and you'll see multiple features upside down, sideways, backwards in each one.
You know, it's impressive. But what I would love to ask you is, in any of the works, you know, there is always the pink. It's something that connects all of those 134. You said
138 in this show. Yes.
38.
Yeah.
So again, I know because I read, but for somebody who doesn't know, why are you using pink?
I think it is a common theme, and as a joke, I will show you here. I'm actually wearing pink pants right now. I use pink for me. It's for lots of reasons. A lot of my work takes on heavier thematics, and I just wanted the work to be approachable visually first, and for me to have a sense of humor and a lightness and make it engaging. It's a color that I was drawn to. It softens tough thematic issues. So I'll use pink, and then people can respond to it and be attracted by color. But then I hope, and I know this happens a lot, people will engage like, okay, now what's really the work about? Let's dig in. So I already have them engaged using, you know, the color element. And then it starts this dialogue. What really is the work about? How deep, how much deeper? And I think that's also important. I intentionally show a lot of layers. And I think all of us were complex, even if we think we live a simple life, we're all complex. We all have relationships that have their unique dynamic. And I want to show that complexity that in ourselves, but also in the work. I want it to be approachable and simple. I have this philosophy for myself that when my life gets too complex, I need to simplify. And even though the work is complex, it also has an element that's, I don't like the word minimalist, but it has an approachable thing where it's not too much. So I like to strip out elements, but if you dig in, you can see all the layers of our complexity.
And James, no, I totally agree with you. But how long did it take you to do one of these portraits, and how for the entire 138? How long
the drawings, this 138, I've been making over the past year, and I will it's tough to gauge on how long each one takes, because I made probably over the last 3-4 years, I've made hundreds of these conservatively, but not all of them work. And it took a while before I settled on what I wanted for this show. And I had full body poses, lots of different distortions. But when Erin and I started talking about the show and how it deals with our own generational and our ancestry, I'm like, okay, well, let's just do it to portraits and specific to that. So my process is I work on multiple things at a time. So I may prep 5 or 6 backgrounds at one time, because I already have the watercolors out, and then I pull out gouache, and I start maybe doing some watercolor gouaches, and then I'll start to refine and just pick out, okay, this has a nice orange background or a cooler background with a bluish color. Then I'm like, okay, I want to do the balance. I want to have a contrast. So almost always I'll be using a warm color versus a cool color within the same piece. Or sometimes I use like a tone on tone, different variations of pink on top of each other, or a pink and an orange together. I like that nuance, but I also like the contrast. So with that said, I don't know how long they take to make, but they're layered, and I don't know how long they take is the answer. I like to work them, and I will keep on adding layers until I feel it reaches the right complexity and the right balance.
Yes, and your atelier is in Los Angeles.
My studio is in Los Angeles, yes, and that's where I live.
So also, it could be the colors to the related also to the environment that you are.
That's a great question. Years ago, someone asked me what it means to be a Los Angeles artist, and I know what it meant for me in terms of the community that I live in and the type of people that everybody knows for Los Angeles or Hollywood and who that's around. But we live in an environment that has a city, but I'm close to a beach, I'm close to a mountain. I can engage in many different parts of my environment. And I do think that comes through whether I consciously think about it or it just kind of appears in the work somehow. We can't control that. My work is well researched and well thought through, but then there's also these things that kind of happen that we can't control. So if it's okay, I'm gonna move to the next piece. I'm gonna show you right here. This piece right here, it's hard to get me and the picture, but I'll show you this first. This is, it's darker in here. It's 2 heads with a pink hand on a plinth. And this, I'll stand next to it for scale. This is about, I would say, 2.5 meters or so.
Wow.
And the idea is, again, it's the 2 heads, it's the generations for me. And the title of this piece is The Great Migration and Age of Exploration. So it's also kind of, we've gone through this philosophical history, we've gone through the Industrial Revolution, we've gone through all these different kind of thought processes in our history. And I wanted to show some of those in this body of work and how we've changed, how culturally thought processes have added, distracted, caused wars, caused different movements, and philosophy or music or art. And so I wanted to have a little bit of that. That's one of the elements that's part of each piece.
And because of this, where are we now? What do you think, James? With this hand, is because we have stopped going anywhere, or?
Well, that's for the viewers to decide, but I certainly have opinions. I mean, everybody says we're in a lucky time because we have the fewest amount of wars we've ever had, but also we're in a deeply diverse and physically engaging political community here, certainly in the United States. I know also there in Europe and several other countries, we're becoming more divided, more polarized. Everybody has strong opinions. That's part of what the show is. I don't know, you don't know, they don't know. And everybody has an opinion. We don't know what's next, but we also are having bigger disagreements with the people that we disagree with. So I think probably having this is like a reminder that, there's always somebody that, if you're not going to stand up for yourself, there's always somebody that's going to take advantage of that. Mm-hmm. Maybe perhaps that's, without really going into each part of, I want everybody else to relate to their own experience with these, but I do have my own experience with each piece, and I know where they come from. Perfect. So, and behind that, and you can barely see it, and we'll kind of peek in a little bit. This is more of an isolating responsibility for each person, and these are all wood carvings. This is a single finger on a plinth. And in the last several years, certainly in the United States, and I know in Europe and around the world, we've been responding to our public monuments. And all of a sudden, the monuments are supposed to be these people that we revere or are important to a community. And then we're deciding, hey, wait a minute, maybe those leaders didn't represent our values that we have now or our thought process now. And some of those monuments are getting taken down, or they're getting pulled down in a violent way. And I know that certainly happened in Europe and around the world. So this is a very simple representation of public art, public monuments, and the isolated finger saying, okay, wait, there's one person that can be responsible for that, and that could be us. Mm-hmm. This is part of a larger group. I did a project which Erin also has here, but it's not an exhibition. It's 100 of them. And the idea in the United States, 100 individual plants, it's 100 individual fingers. And the idea behind it is it's a public monument, but it also, for the United States, we have exactly 100 US senators. And so the senators are elected to represent a group of people. So I chose 100 because there are voices, and our monuments are our voices in our communities. But ultimately, it comes down to who is responsible for our opinions and our thoughts. It's us and the people that we elect. So that's the fast version of what this would be. And Erin can probably add a link to this later about those 100 if you want to see them, because it's pretty dynamic. It takes up a fair amount of space. It's engaging. This is a school desk. And then I've placed 10 heads on top of that.
White end. Yeah,
white heads. The idea behind that, I'll back up here again so you can kind of get the scale of it. And the idea is the same as dealing with lots of different thoughts, lots of different opinions, lots of different personalities. But also, it's on a school desk. And I have to let everybody know, every one of my choices, it's not, oh, it looks cool. It's conscious to choose a school desk because a school desk represents our education, our history, our knowledge base. So that deals with a little bit of metaphor of like, we can benefit in our communities, and if we have the skill set and we have the knowledge base to back it up. So that's combining two different ideas, using education in a thoughtful way and our personal history. So this is a major piece that Erin and I have for the show.
Yes, but James, also I would like to ask you about the sculpture. I still look at that. To what with these long big ears.
That's a good observation. You're right. just like I was saying, we have our own complexities, we have our unique quality to abstract and augment qualities, just to highlight that we each are individuals. So I do have unequal ears, someone's big, someone's small. I do have these strange noses. Sometimes the eyes don't match. They're not symmetrical faces. I'm not trying for realism at all. I think it's important that it's not realistic. It's a representation. Obviously, we can identify eyes and noses and mouths, but it's showing that each person's uniqueness. And so it's intentional to kind of augment certain features.
Yes. Are they all attached? So the one, this one is okay. This one, you see, I couldn't see it before. The one.
These are all attached, and they're coming out at all different angles. It's intentional. It's the idea that we're talking about is we all have our unique perspective on our lives. We have our unique perspectives on any topic. So it's important that they're coming out at different angles. So let's move over to these couple. I'm going to give you a wider view first, and you just tell me if there's one that you want to focus on.
Well, one that I would love to know more is the pink busto that is just there. That's something very, very.
I'm going to give you a quick view around it.
And it looks even bigger from the picture that you sent me, I have to say.
This one. This is basically human size. The reality of this one. And I'll let you ask a question first before I launch into what this one I want to talk about on this one.
Okay, so I can see beautiful legs as a woman, and the feet are a bit of a man. So it's this combination of the two. Was it intentional or?
Well, that's an interesting perspective, because I don't really, in my head, I've never assigned gender to any of the drawings or any of the sculptures. It never even crosses my mind when I'm making them. I think there's a certain amount of androgyny that I like, and it allows for interpretation. This one, a lot has happened in the world in the last few years. And to me, there's a certain amount of, what's the word I've been using? Certain amount of contemplation in this pose.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a certain compliance in this pose in terms of, and so either way, it's vulnerable to me when someone's on their knees. It's interesting. I'm actually on my knees as we're talking.
No, it's quite touching.
A quiet moment, or it could be a violent moment, or it could be a moment of surrender. I think everybody will bring their own perspective to it, but knowing what we've gone through in the last few years, that's related. And I think what's important to know on this one, you can tell me if you can see it. I think you can see a little bit here, a little bit right here. All of these, this is also wood carving, but I've made this, I think I'm close to 9 or 10 different pieces inside of it. And it's important for me that you could see the joints. They're imperfect. They're joined together where you could see gaps. And then I make these nice joinery in it. Again, it's like we're flawed. And I want everybody to be able to approach that and to see that.
I was muted, but I think what you said. It's very touching, because of course we went through so much in the last few years and months, and it could very well in person summarize these years of uncertainty that we went all we were all grasped. Beautiful.
So then right here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is reminiscent of the large wall of the 138 drawings, but it's all on one page. And you can see how I'm layering the details in each one. Allowing for the background to come through, and then seeing multiple facial features on each face.
Molto bello.
So then we'll back out.
James, the only thing that I would like to ask you, they seem very. There is no one that smiles, though, or I can't see one that smiles.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. None of them are looking at each other. None are interacting with each other. All looking different directions. They all have their own perspective. They all have their own interest, and you're right. I don't actually put a huge smile on anybody's faces, nor do I put a huge grimace on anybody's faces. So it's open to interpretation on the mood of these people, but it's intentional that I make it so they're not engaging with each other.
Mm-hmm. But they're engaging with us. I almost feel that we can have a dialogue together now, when you put it so close to the video, it's quite impressive. How many heads are here
in this one? I haven't counted on this one, but I know through the process of making these, I've made a selection of them. There's usually about 19 to 20, 22 heads in each one of them. 3 that are in the exhibition. There's the drawings here, and let me just back up just a little bit. And that is another wood sculpture. And I will get you up close so you can see what's going on.
This is wood?
This is all wood, yeah. All the sculptures are wood carvings.
Like a totem.
Yes, it's a totem. And, there's 5 on that one. It's same thing. We're dealing with some ideas of generations in history. These are about 1 meter high. Similar to the other drawings, but they're in quadrants. And it's just like we are combining different backgrounds and different stories. I did a slightly different process on these. I made a group of drawings, and then I cut them into sections, and then I combine them to one piece. So it's even more mismatched in terms of facial features. And you can kind of see how the backgrounds are different from the top corner to the bottom corner. For instance, you can I'll just frame it that way. You can see that one to the top of that one have a similar background. So those I know those came from that same drawing, but it was important to kind of cut things apart and to really start to combine elements of our past. So I will give you a close up on that one.
It's repetition that you say, almost obsessive.
Yeah, that's an okay word. Yeah.
Yes, as Erin put it. Do you feel this in a positive obsession? It's obsession can be negative, and maybe in this case could be seen in a different way. So how do you?
That's a great question. And Erin will know this. Most of my projects have an element of intense repetition, and with changes within that. And to me, on a show like this, it's almost like an anthropological study. Mm-hmm. And in order to get the best perspective, we have to take the widest pool of people and the widest pool of voices to really understand. So I'm including as many different perspectives and opinions and faces as possible, almost like a scientific study. And it's not uncommon for me to do that in all different projects where I'll make multiple, hundreds. We talked about that one with the finger. I've made 100 of those intentionally. And then for the faces, there's 138, but I know I've made many more that didn't make it into the show. It's part of my process to do as many explorations as possible to get to the right answer. And I think that is my own discovery process, is to explore, ask more questions until I can get to the point where I'm like, do I understand it better? And I think for me, it's an important part of my process to dig deeper and reveal layers and maybe get to the solution. Again, it's I don't know, you don't know, they don't know. but I'm trying to figure it out in the process. And I'm trying to educate myself and go through the process as much as possible. And that lends to itself as just sheer quantity.
Yeah, no, definitely. But what do you think for this solo show? Do you think you found some answers?
More questions and finding answers realistically. But I've gone through a process with these shows I do in terms of the research. And this show, sometimes you dig deep in terms of philosophy, into my own research. I've been keeping a journal my entire life. I started it when I was 15. And part of that is this daily journal. It's thoughts, it's reflections, it's drawings, it's short stories. And I think for all of us, there's beneficial reasons to be digging deeper. And culturally, I think we're a very quick society. We look at news pretty quickly. We just read the headlines and we move on. And we're not allowing ourselves a moment to quietly explore, dig deeper. And when I make 138 drawings, I'm allowing myself to dig deeper and think deeply. And when I'm making lots of objects, and I think that's an important part of all my work. And it's my way of saying, hey, look, let's allow ourselves a moment of quiet and just think deeply. Because right now, I know I'm guilty of it too. I'm always got a podcast on, or I always have some music on, or I have the news on, or I never have a moment of quiet. It used to be that we were searching for that, and now we're searching to find a moment of quiet, versus before we were just constantly trying to find more information. We're on information overload constantly, and we have to make an effort to say, oh, I'm going to sit down quietly and just read a book. It seems strange to do that, you know. Now, even if we want to sit down and read a book, we may have a music on in another room, and we're so overstimulated. So just like this show, it allows me to just calm down, simplify our complexities, and then just think deeply and dig in.
I can see myself in that too. You know, it's so difficult to find within ourselves silence, you know, and to be few minutes without doing anything. I think, you know, reading a book, it's becoming very, you know, something special to add to our daily life. I agree totally with you, and I think that the simplest things of life are becoming very difficult for people.
Yeah, that's why I kind of shared my concept earlier. Is when I find myself, my life is like feeling a little bit like it's losing control. I'm like, okay, let's just too complex. Let's simplify a little bit. What don't I need in my life, or what challenge can I remove from my life? So that's just my personal philosophy.
Yes. I agree with you. And sometimes, you know, we are so we need to be connected every second. We wake up and we are, the first thing, I think, you know, also my children, unfortunately, is to use a phone.
Well, that's exactly right. And I had to actually apologize to Erin from the gallery. The other night, I just could not stop thinking about something that for the installation. And I sent her an email at 2:00 in the morning. And I apologized to her the next day. I said, look, I don't intend for you to distract from you and your family. But she saw it anyway, because we're all too awake, and we just hear it. And we don't want that to control our lives. And we make intentions and say, hey, I don't want you to see this, but we can't stop. So.
Yes. And we could talk forever about this, because I think it's something that is it's a reality. And as I said, you know, it's another thing that you're talking. It's so beautiful to see the real life, that, you know, these things are real, that our history is real, you know, and we are going through a different life, already talking about metaverse, which is already in our mind. It's the metaverse is already there.
You say that, because the more that I don't want to be archaic in this way, but the more that technology that we have, the more I feel like I have to make hand marks. Same, I have to use a hand tool to make a chisel and have thousands and thousands of marks in each sculpture, in each drawing. It's my way of actually removing myself from the technology that we live in that makes our lives easier, it makes our lives better, but at the same time, For me, I need to simplify it and just get to basic tools, basic materials, because that's all we have if all the computers went away.
Yes, 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 because we're used to have everything a bit easier. Said you tackle all these wonderful and unfortunately sad themes about our present lives, like houselessness, workers' rights, criminal justice, capital punishment, that we exchange of private information. So we just said. Can you give me maybe an example of one work in your entire career that was one of the metaphorically maybe highlighted all of this?
Well, I won't have anything that highlights all those, but I will talk about, and maybe we'll add a link to this afterwards, specifically from my website, because it's a project I've re-engaged with. Right after I did the museum show with Erin at the Dallas Contemporary, I started another project, and that museum show was more about public engagements, public perceptions in terms of disasters. We'll put a link to that too. But after that, I did this project called Social Foreclosure, and I was really engaged in how much public versus private life we had. And I did many, many projects about that early in my career. And so I used plastic sheeting, and I sewed plastic sheeting into pink camping tents. So the quick view is it's pink camping tents onto bed frames that were stacked like bunk beds, in multiple layers. And to me, that was a quick metaphor of the camping tent was a symbol of, camping tents are nomadic and they can move around, so they travel easily. And all different cultures have had housing that they could travel around and move wherever, like say food was, or get away from weather. So camping tent is a metaphor for that. And the bed frame that's where our private lives happen, in our private bedroom. So I'm combining two elements. We're saying we have this private experience, the bed, and the camping tent that moves. So how much private information travels quickly? Well, I re-engaged with that project last year for a museum show in Los Angeles, and I looked at it differently. Meaning I live in Los Angeles, and there are close to 70,000 people who don't have homes or a safe place to live. And even though I know what the project was intended to in my mind, I saw it in a different way. It seemed to me, okay, camping tents are a symbol of cheap, easy housing for unhoused people. And now they're mobile. And then I have these bed frames, and that's their new home. And I'm stacking them in multiple levels. I'm thinking, if we don't respond to this problem, we are building new cities of unhoused people in camping tents that keep moving. They're nomadic, and they're popping up under freeways or in a field. And before we know it, it just expands and expands and expands. And to me, it all of a sudden looks like a city of unhoused people again. And we certainly have that in Los Angeles. I travel widely, as you do, and Erin does. It's a problem in most international cities. It's, maybe more so in the United States. So to me, that I like using that story as we were thinking about our conversation, how a word can have an intended meaning and the reason it was made, but it can still translate generationally and through the years and kind of change its meaning. And I'm okay with that. And so I like that project kind of in this moment, that it sums up a serious topic, but also has an approachability to it. You can see it, you can engage in it. It's a large installation. You can walk around it. You can be consumed by it, just like we're consumed by media in the public-private, or even be consumed by driving down a street in Los Angeles that has 3,000 homeless people on one street. We have to respond to it. It's near us. That sculpture, I believe, was about 4 meters high by probably 6-7 meters wide by 6-7 meters wide. So it's large. It's engaging. So that's one project that I'm really proud of, but a lot of my projects have big elements. A lot of my institutional and universities or museums are larger. Obviously in a gallery space, I want something that's a little bit easier to in terms of scale. But it's still dealing with a similar subject matter. I just kind of changed the approachability of it.
Well, I would love to see it. If you can send us,
we'll put links to several of these in the chat.
Will be wonderful. Of course, here we know the situation fortunately very well too. It's
same for refugee camps or unhoused. There's lots of different reasons these things happen, and again, it's like this piece right here. It deals with public education, and if we educate ourselves through generations, would we be better off? Erin and I spent a long time talking about this the other day. There's another principle that I really like, and I know we're getting close on time, but the quick version is called the 7th generation principle. And no matter what we do environmentally or politically in our lives, we should be thinking, how does this benefit the next 7 generations?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, would that make us better as people? I don't think anybody really participates in that idea, but I think it's a really nice idea. It's a nice principle.
How long can people be, how long you're going to be there, first of all, in Dallas, and also to meet you, because I think the vernissage is in a couple of hours, which would be midnight our time.
Yes.
And how long is the exhibition going to be?
The exhibition, it opens tonight, October 8th through November 12th. And I will be in town for a few more days. Of course, I'll be at the opening. And then Erin and I are going to do another larger discussion at the Dallas Contemporary Museum next week. And I think there's an online version of that that people can tune into. And so I'll be here for a few more days. And then the exhibition is open for 6 weeks.
Fantastic, because I think it's, again,
we'll put a link to it, and you can go to erincluley.com to see everything in the show and see a closer work of it, a vision of it.
Because I would love for anyone of our small community, if they would like to, big community of the Art Talks, to ask any questions, would be now the time. But Maria, we know her for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Maria, can you hear me?
Hi, Carolina.
Ciao, Maria.
Yes, how are you? Ciao, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes.
It's amazing what I was listening to what he does with his work. He says it's very important to raise awareness about what's going on in the world at the moment, and it's makes people think and realize that it's not everything about art and beauty. We always have to be concerned about problems of others, and it's just amazing. I would love to be there to go to the exhibition, but I'm very far away. I'm down here in London.
Well, you just said something I think is important, and I know lots of people, hopefully lots of people think this way, but all the information has to be in the work, and the ideas have to support the work, and the work has to support the ideas. That's by far the most important for me. The work doesn't exist without a reason for it to exist. I'm not just trying to make an object that's pretty. I'm trying to make something that says something or responds to something.
Amazing. Anyway, congratulations. I hope everything goes great tonight.
I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Maria. Thank you, Maria. So, we have another, I think, Shlomi, how are you? Shlomi Ron, would you like to add anything?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, hi, James. I think we've met a couple of years ago through email, or we talked.
We did. Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to see you again and see the excellent work you're doing. You mentioned that like the common theme is generational aspect. I'm kind of wondering, why did you choose generational theme, and how does this represent in your life?
Well, I think the basic part of the generational theme is knowing that we don't even know our own personal history.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it difficult to understand a more collective history. And if we don't understand the collective history, we keep on having these these leaders leading us in different directions that we don't agree with. We keep on making mistakes. We should, with technology, we should be more intelligent and making better decisions for our own communities, but somehow we're not. So I just wanted to scale that down and say, oh, it starts individually. It starts with ourselves, to our families, and we expand it to our bigger family, to our community, to our country, to, you know, so that's what this show is about. And I've been exploring my own family history in the last couple of years. And I know a lot of people have been thinking with the pandemic and other things with losses, they're like, oh, we shouldn't miss these opportunities with our own communities, our own families. Yeah. So I'm trying to make it as specific to each person and myself before we expand out the idea.
I see. No, that's fascinating. I actually met another LA-based company that actually also focuses on generational aspect, and they do it through interactive conversational video, where basically you get people to record their, you know, pretty much key moments in their lives, and people can ask them questions. I don't know if you know these guys, but
is that I don't know them. Is that where it's almost like a living will that they can pass on afterwards?
Yeah, it's like a vault with your generation stories, and it's pretty much you can ask them, you know, that person anything, and he's going to respond back as if he's in a Zoom call with you. The company is called Storyfile, so you might want to check it out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Tommy. So hopefully we will have a nice talk after Freeze, as we said, because also there is a beautiful story behind that we would love to reveal next time.
Yeah.
So we can't wait to have you also on the Art Talks.
Definitely. Looking forward to it.
Art fair. You should definitely connect with Erin, and I know she travels for art fairs. I know she'll be in Miami for the Untitled Fair coming up. So if you are traveling out about, and it's just a cool way to meet somebody that you've only met through a Zoom call to see them at an art fair. So I know Erin will be there.
Erin, will you be in Art Basel?
She's going to be then in the Untitled Fair in Miami coming up.
We would love to see you, because we are hopefully coming also for Art Basel Miami. So we would love to meet you all.
Yeah, that's where I'm based. So great to see. Yeah,
fantastic. So we are going to do, definitely we're going to meet up. We are trying to find now you know, a little space for the Art Talk. So, and maybe welcome you all there. But can I ask James, and thank you, Shlomi, again for everything. But James, are you going to participate for Art Basel Miami, or any other fairs that you are thinking with Erin?
I'm always planning something, and I always leave room for a little bit of surprise and a little bit of unexpected things. But I have several projects coming up, and then I'll probably talk more about those when they come up, when they get a little bit closer.
Okay, so you'll leave us in suspense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. No, but that's wonderful. And any one of you coming to London for Freeze, just in case we will meet you?
I'm not coming to London, and I'm seeing Erin behind me that she's signaling she's not going to be there either, unfortunately. Okay. Dallas is a very active community, and Erin has her hands full here. But she does travel internationally. She does a lot of fairs. She's always out there traveling somewhere. There's no doubt you'll run across her.
Can't wait actually to see more about Dallas, Erin. We would love to hear more about, you know, all the other you know, the art scene in Dallas. That for us it's again a discovery at this moment. But yes, so hopefully we'll see you very soon. So tonight is the vernissage. I think, you know, now we have to highlight this extraordinary moment.
We've been talking over the last year.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, and it's nice. I mean, we had several phone calls and a Zoom studio visit. You know, luckily I was familiar with the work from not only working with James at Dallas Contemporary, but when we had a few works here over the summer. So in terms of, the way that he's crafted the pieces, I had a familiarity with that, but it was fun to go back and forth and kind of put together, select the works. I'm often a big believer in taking the artist's lead, but I think, we both had these conversations that put together a really nice selection of works. So.
Bello. No, I think you did a very, very congratulations, because it looks wonderful, really.
What I like about our process, not only was it fun, engaging, there's a little bit of give and take, but I think there was a right level of balance and restraint in how we chose it. And I like that our conversation is like, oh, it would be great to have that piece on the show, but we don't need it. It's a nice piece. And so creating the exhibition has a nice flow and a nice activation in the space. And it was a good conversation that you can have between an artist and someone that's going to show the work, like Erin. It's a lucky balance. It's not always like that, I can guarantee you.
Yes, I believe so. But also, the space, it's so, and you really made it, as you said, so choreographically perfect. I have to say, it looks really nice. And it's a big space. It's in the middle of Dallas, or?
So we're in the design district, and kind of just west of downtown Dallas. We're in the development that we're in is called River Bend. It's near a river that doesn't really have much water in it, but anyway. But there are the Dallas Art Fair actually has their offices in our same complex. Plus, they have a gallery that they program. So there's actually a gallery from Ukraine who's sort of floating around right now.
Oh.
They're opening an exhibition tonight, as well as we have 3 other neighbors. So it's really nice to be in this development in Riverbend, because 5 shows essentially are going to be opening tonight, which means the community will really come out for it. And not only our 5, but within the design district, there's other galleries that we're, close with in terms of being colleagues. They're all opening shows as well. So,
and it's a nice community here. It's a big city. It's easy to get around, and we're all of maybe a 10-minute drive from the Contemporary Museum, the Dallas Museum of Art, the National, which is a major sculpture museum. So it's a nice community. It's close. It's interactive. It's engaging because it's a manageable size versus other cities.
And we're really, Texas. We're really proud of being the friendly state. I mean, that sounds a little bit funny, but there is a warmth that, there's not a lot of pretentiousness that happens in the galleries. We're all about welcoming the visitors. I always talk about education within the gallery, and, talking with my team that is kind of front facing with the visitors is, we welcome them, we ask them, if they need any help or whatever. Of course, we let people just sort of walk around too, but, educating them about the work is such a big part of, a part of, acquiring work too. So, of course, we're selling the works, but, to know the stories that are coming from James and conceptually how everything came together, it's important to us. And because we kind of have this warmth, it's also among us colleagues in Dallas, which I do think is pretty unique. A lot of us galleries, we're here to support each other. So
beautiful. Actually, there is this sense of, community, longing and belonging. And it's really important, especially nowadays. This is what we were talking with other people. It's so important to support each other, because at the end of the day, we're not alone, and we should be there for each other. That's really what the Art Talks are all about, and it's so beautiful. So we can't really wait to meet you, and maybe if you come ever here, we can organize something here with all of you in Switzerland. It would be wonderful. Really, it was really a pleasure to meet you, both of you, and to finally, see you, because we talked very, quickly, but it was really a big pleasure. And we hope, again, to see you in Miami. And really have a wonderful, wonderful day. And congratulations. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
hopefully meet
All
you
right.
very, very soon. And
Good. And this is obviously Erin.
Hi.
hello, Erin. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming so early in the gallery.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
It
So we
looks
figured this is a
amazing.
we figured this is a nice view.
Uh-huh. Very, very nice. I ask you, the color, of course, the color of the pink, you said it also in the interview, but I love, you were wearing, are you wearing the pink trousers? I saw. Okay. we